Hey, what's up, y'all? Welcome back to another episode here with Matt. This is typically where we take real resilience and we tie it in with a weekly walk. The reason that we're not starting this off with a walk this week, as you can see, we're already seated, is that, well, I started with a walk. We did version 1, walking, and by the time I came and sat down, I thankfully checked and saw that there were some technical issues. So I figured, let's just start it over, and instead of walking back over and starting from there, let's just start with this kind of beautiful scenery, this beautiful kind of backdrop. Look at all that. Look at it. I love it. I absolutely love it. Hopefully this is, hopefully you guys aren't too bummed out by the lack of walking, but honestly, I think we'll remove some of the leaf crunchiness that's happening underneath the feet, and the audio will be even better. So that's really cool. So always a silver lining, right? This week I wanted to do something a little bit different. I wanted to talk about, I wanted to do a movie review, and a movie that my wife and I just watched like 2-3 nights ago, and obviously this is not something that we typically do here on this show, in this programming, and this is not, it's not typical. So why would I do a review on here? Well, I think there were so many kind of mindset and resilience takeaways from this particular movie that I found profound, and I really wanted to share with you guys. And so I figured, why not do a real resilience review? So we're gonna do a R3 here. That's what we'll call these. If movies come up that I think have some kind of deeper principles that are worth discussing, I'll absolutely talk about it. And if you guys have any ideas about any movies that you think that you'd like my take on, and how it wraps itself in with real resilience, then I will be more than happy to give my 2 cents on it if I've already seen it. And if I haven't seen it, I'll be more than happy to watch it too. You guys just let me know what movies that you think that you'd like to get my kind of take on, and what we can pull out of it of value for everybody. And we'll totally do that. I think that'll be a fun thing to kind of add it. So R3, another aspect of the show. So what movie, we got all this build up, what movie are we talking about? Well, the new Benedict Cumberbatch and Kirsten Dunst movie, The Power of the Dog, right? Power of the Dog, something like that. I'm doing a movie review and I don't even know the exact name of the movie. That's about right. Not required. I think you guys will get it. It's on Netflix. If you haven't seen it, by all means, check it out. It is a kind of a slow, drawn-out movie, baked full of uncomfortable moments. And if you're not a fan of interpersonal conflict, or like being intimately involved or intimately close to that kind of conflict, to the relationship style conflict, then this will be an uncomfortable movie to watch. And that's me. I'm not a particular fan of those type of movies, and I think a lot of it actually has to do with we're going to get a little scientific. I'm not no scientist. I've taken very basic intro to science classes, but I remember learning about this one concept in my neuroscience class that was super interesting. It's called mirror neurons. And so neurons are the components inside of your brain that are actually communicating. They're setting up networks with each other. So it's one neuron doesn't stand alone. They all work in concert with one another in different systems to perform the functions that our brain performs, right? And so it's like a network. And so they're like singular nodes communicating it and sending electrical messages from one to another, so that way you can, see, and so you can smell things, and so you can send all these different messages that you're getting to and from throughout your body as is needed. And so mirror neurons it's this interesting thing. If I remember the original experiment, oh my gosh, I can't remember can't remember it well enough. I know it had to do with monkeys. I'm pretty sure it had to do with monkeys that were in a laboratory, and the scientists had come in and had noticed something. Gosh, I don't remember. So I can't go into too much detail there about how it was originally discovered. But basically, what happens is, the way that mirror neurons work is that. Okay, so think about a basketball game. Think about a football game. Think about really intense movies, and the way that you're kind of reacting to the events that transpire in those events. So when somebody shoots a bat, or someone's dribbling and it's the last seconds of the game and they pull up to shoot, and everyone's kind of like they're gripping the rails, the separators in the bleachers in their seats. Same thing with football. It's the clock is counting down. The quarterback stepping back and he's getting ready to throw this really long pass. Balls in the air and everyone's clenching their teeth, and there's like everyone's like holding their breath in anticipation. And it's not simply it's not simply observing this event that's causing this like nervous anxiety or excitement from everybody. It's the fact that when we're watching something, we're actually kind of transposing ourselves into that position. So when we're seeing something happen, it's like our brain is interpreting that as if we're there. And that's why sports are so exciting. That's why movies can be so exciting. It's why your heart rate picks up, because your brain is picking up that information and essentially reading the situation as if you are the person in that situation. And so for me, in my own personal life, I don't enjoy interpersonal conflict. I really enjoy. I don't like passive aggressive, forms of communication. I like being able to communicate with people kind of directly, and working our way to a solution. And so when you have a movie that's baked full of those kinds of things, then it's going to make me as uncomfortable as I would be in real life. And so, hence me not enjoying those movies. But hopefully that didn't mess anything up. I tapped my earbud and it went beep. So hopefully we're still getting audio and everything. So that's why I don't particularly enjoy those, and that's completely aside. And thank you for joining me down that rabbit hole. But back to the movie itself. So I guess the first thing we should say, if I didn't already say it, is that spoiler alert, right? So I'm going to do my best to avoid talking about the ending or the things leading up to the ending. I'm going to talk about some of the major themes and characters of the movie. So there are going to be things that are going to be given away, but it should not take away from your ability to watch the movie with pleasure if you have not already seen it. So with that said, let us proceed. Okay, so the basic layout of this is that you have Benedict Cumberbatch, who is a cowboy. He's a rancher in Montana in like the mid 1920s. And so there are glimpses of the first cars throughout this, but primarily it's horses. He lives with his brother, and they own this ranch. They operate this ranch. He is much more of the Benedict Cumberbatch is much more of the down and dirty cowboy out there with his cow hands, and they have like cattle that they take in and they sell. I think they slaughter for the meat. They take the hides. And all of that, and so and it's a very successful ranch. It does very well, and so much so that it's not uncommon for them to have regular encounters with like the governor and things like that. And so his brother that he lives with is not the down and dirty cowboy that Benedict Cumberbatch plays. And he is much more clean. You can see him like taking actual baths, and that's kind of a thing throughout the movies, that Benedict Cumberbatch's character won't take a bath, and this guy's like, man, you gotta take some baths, it's pretty stinky, especially if we're gonna have like highfalutin company over. And so you can see right off the bat that they draw a clear dichotomy between the personality types. Benedict Cumberbatch's character is much more coarse and just that kind of, real rough cowboy, and his brother's not. And so enter Kirsten Dunst, who starts off with her son working, and they're working basically in this kind of hotel motel place for like people that are passing through. So Benedict Cumberbatch and his crew come rolling through, and his brother come rolling through town, and they have reservations essentially there where they're going to have this dinner made for them, and they're going to eat. So they're going to eat dinner there. They're going to have some drinks. I think a place maybe across the street. I don't think it's in the same facility. Like, they're going to be able to kind of, go dance to music and have all their whiskey and party and have a good time. Chocked full of like hookers and stuff that are prostitutes and stuff that are there for them. All in preparation because they know that they're coming. I'm going to flip this around actually because we got the sun behind me, and I think we might get a little bit better. There you go. We go ahead and flip it. So we're going to lose a little bit of that lake, but we're going to get some of that green, that beautiful green algae. So, yeah, I think that's better. So, you have Kirsten Dunst and you have her son, and they're essentially working there. So they're the ones like cooking up all the food. They're the ones who are making up the rooms, responsible for cleaning and all of that. They go through, and essentially a romantic relationship begins between the brother and Kirsten Dunst to the point where they eventually get married, and she and her son are going to move in with the family. And there is very obvious turmoil from disrespect from Benedict's character and Kirsten Dunst's character. I think her name is Rose. I'm trying to remember Benedict Cumberbatch's character name. Pete? I think his name is Peter. I don't want to get that wrong. That might be the kid's name. So I think that is the kid's name. Yeah, so at any rate. So essentially what ends up happening is Benedict is doing his level best once they move in to really dig into Rose, the Kirsten Dunst character, and to really just aggravate her and annoy her to no end. And it's because he doesn't think that her intentions are pure. He doesn't think that she's really in love with her brother. She's just in it for the money. And so he really fights. He does all that he can to really make her life just super uncomfortable, in a not really aggressive, like forwardly aggressive kind of way. There's not really, I don't recall any sort of physical altercations really taking place between them at all. He's just really good at getting underneath her skin in very, very powerful ways. And so one of the ways that I believe that he sees that he can do this is actually using her son kind of against her and to establish a relationship with him. But one of the first things that happens in the movie between them two is that she gets really upset. Rose gets really upset at Benedict's character because he is so ruthless about her son, because he's this real skinny, kind of frail character, has a lisp, and is kind of aloof and just not head in the clouds. He's not down and dirty, right? He's kind of an intellectual, but he's very quiet. But the lisp thing comes into play pretty significantly from the beginning. And so, Benedict's giving him a bunch of crap and making fun of him, but then decides, like, oh, I'm going to be his friend because that's going to make his mom really uncomfortable. But then they ended up becoming friends, or Benedict really actually starts to like him. The kicker here is that as this is progressing, her son does not like Benedict, and she, Rose, does not like Benedict. And they could see that, and it gets to a point where Benedict gets so good at getting underneath Rose's skin that she starts drinking heavily all the time, to the point where, like, it's affecting her livelihood. Like, she's passing out and she's not having a good time of it. And on the flip side, so the same feeling that's derived that the son is getting, he doesn't develop any sort of bad habits, any sort of negative personal like self-loathing or anything like that. He is almost unencumbered. Like he gets really upset the first time that it happens, but once they move, and that's before they move in. Once they move in, it is not the same. He does not handle this stress in the same way, and so that's really what kind of drove me to think about this, to think about how it comes into play with real resilience, and that really it stems from the question of why was she so unable to manage this new relationship, this real negative relationship, this negative, toxic, tyrannical kind of man in her life that she has to live with. And why was her son essentially not impacted to the same degree or even at all like she was? And this was my conclusion, is that she had purpose in that she was a person of service, right? She cooked for people, she cleaned for people, she set up the rooms, she took care of the rooms when they were gone. She had purpose through service. And so once she married the brother and she moved in there, she couldn't even serve effectively there because they had maids. They would cook all the food, they'd clean all the rooms, the cowhands would come in and start the fires, and so this removed her sense of purpose from her life. And so then she loses this sense of purpose. She's trying to get a grasp on this kind of upper end family who has these relationships with very publicly acclaimed or very high level public officials, and it's just like it's a very well known family. And so she's trying to find her place, like, how do I fit in here? And then when she loses her purpose, and then this guy's coming in like a jerk, getting underneath of her skin and just driving her nuts. Her point is she doesn't know how to handle it. And then her son, the difference is that he has a purpose. He is very interested in becoming a doctor. He really wants to, there's a point in time when he's working with animals, learning about their anatomy, and so he's kind of constantly driven by this purpose and this general curiosity about the world. One point where they were all together outside, and he shows up and he's got this cowboy hat on. The son has got this cowboy hat on, and he's got these like white shoes, not boots, out there kind of in a very similar layout to here right now. And he comes out, gets off of like the wagon that carries them out, and all of the cowhands are just giving him the hardest time, like, "Hey Nancy," like just, "Woo, look at you, fancy boy." And he pays them no mind, and he is dead set. This is probably like the best embodiment of his character and his mindset from the movie, and how it's best reflected is in this one scene. And he sees these birds in a nest in a tree above everyone that no one's paying attention to, and they're right there, these big beautiful black and white birds. And he goes walking over and he looks at them, and he looks at the ground beneath of them, and he looks up at him again, and everyone's just hooping and hollering, and he's pays no attention. Then he goes walking back, and he's going to go sit down on the wagon, and that's actually when Benedict's character actually initially reaches out to him to really start messing with Rose, to establish that relationship and just make her uncomfortable, because she knows how much, he knows how much she dislikes him. Benedict's character knows how much Rose dislikes him, and so getting in and establishing that relationship with her son and just even communicating with him at all is going to drive her crazy. And so that's kind of, that scene is where that begins. But that's the less relevant part of it than the kid, Peter. I believe the son's name is Peter. Peter's reaction and to the events is very, I am focused on what I care about and what I'm passionate about. And yeah, there's going to be all this crap happening around me, but he was very, it's actually a great embodiment of stoicism. There are things that I control, and there are things that I can't control. I can't control the way that all of you guys view me, and he was not so insecure in his self where he felt the need to change the way that he acted or change the way that he dressed in order to abate the criticism and just everyone just gave him a real hard time. And I think that's really where the idea for doing this recording of this show really came from was he had a much better time dealing with toxic, tyrannical, this one toxic and tyrannical person who is leading this group of toxic, tyrannical cowhands. He was able to manage it so much better and than his mother was. His mother, who had been around these types of people and knew what they were like and kind of knew what to expect, he handled it a million times better, and that was because he had purpose. He had something driving him other than his immediate surroundings. He didn't lose purpose upon his whole family dynamic changing. Keeping that one purpose and that thing that was core to him. It wasn't just some passive interest that he was like, yeah, this is kind of cool. It's something that was core to him, something that was true. He saw himself as a doctor, and he acted as a doctor. And as somebody who wanted to learn that and where it mattered to them. And so because of that, he was able to endure the slings and the arrows because he knew that wasn't really relevant to him or his goal. Whereas his mother didn't have that purpose anymore. And so I guess that's really the lesson that I wanted to take from that and to give to you guys, is that your ability to endure the slings and the arrows and the obstacles that are going to come up your way is it's so much easier to deal with that when you have a clear purpose, when you know what you're striving after, when you have that goal. And people may hate on you, but you're like, this is what matters to me, this is the thing that drives me, and you do what you got to do. But like this, my relationship with my goal is more important to me than these fleeting passing relationships or these people that want to talk all this crap. Like I don't even know you, like, or maybe I do know you, but like my relationship with you is not as important as kind of my relationship with myself, but my relationship with my goal, my higher purpose, with how I see myself in the world. He saw himself in the world as a doctor. Rose, his mother, did not see herself in the world. She no longer had a view of herself and lost herself to those slings and arrows and succumbed to drinking and becoming an alcoholic. And so that's, I guess, like, you kind of have your choices in front of you, right? Do you leave yourself susceptible to the slings and arrows and not having a clear and defined purpose that is going to stick with you regardless of circumstantial changes, or are you going to have a purpose? Are you going to have that thing that you can do, that you can focus on, and that you can really throw yourself into regardless of the world around you? It's something that's almost a respite from the chaos that can potentially surround you. The choice is yours. Thank you guys so much. I hope you appreciated this R3 experience here with me on Real Resilience in this walk with Matt today. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. We're continuing to grow. I can't tell you how much that excites me. So thank you so much for coming here. Thank you so much for liking and sharing this out to other people. That's how the growth continues to happen, is you guys are sharing the show. So thank you for sharing it. Thank you for subscribing. That lets me know that we have real enduring interest, right? So thank you, and I will see you guys here again later this week for our full production episode of Real Resilience with Matt LaStalia. Love you guys.